Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us here this Friday evening. I'm glad you're spending your Friday here with us in our workshop, which is Nature RX and Equity in Green Spaces. And so for today, we will discuss several topics centered in Nature RX, an area of research highlighting the importance of nature on our physical and mental health. And within our workshop, we will address the need for equitable and inclusive green spaces for Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. And by the end of this workshop, we will provide some resources to support communities of color and help bridge the nature gap. And this workshop this evening will run until 6:30 p.m. And at that time, we will open up the floor to questions for around 10 minutes, and we will then conclude the program. But just if you have any questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A box and we will for sure address them at 6:30. And with that, before we dive into the workshop and who we are, we would like to thank our hosts, the Jan Schramm and Maria Minetti-Schramm Museum of Art. And as we all know, the Minetti-Schramm Museum plays a large role in our Davis experience. And we're thankful we are able to use this space for our workshop. And this is because the Minetti-Schramm Museum is committed to being a third space where conversation and connection can happen. And of course, this is only possible because the museum offers the Interact space, which is a Zoom webinar platform in which we're in right now, in case you didn't know. And it serves to amplify BIPOC voices through these virtual gatherings. And they're mainly hosted by campus community groups like the Arboretum ambassadors. So if you'd like to learn more about the Interact program, visit their website at minetti-schramm.org. And once again, we'd like to thank the Minetti-Schramm Museum for allowing us to be a part of this Interact space, especially as learning by leading environmental education leaders. I know that we are striving to create and disperse programming focused on inclusivity, which for tonight will be centered in Nature RX and how the lack of it affects underserved populations and communities of color, and as well as expressing the need of making nature accessible to all. Yeah.
We would like to share the UC Davis Land Acknowledgement Statement without edit, which formally recognizes and pays respect to the Indigenous people who once lived where UC Davis stands today. We should take a moment to acknowledge the land on which we are gathered. For thousands of years, this land has been the home of the Patwin people. Today, there are 3 federally recognized Patwin tribes: the Kashil-Dihi Band of Wintun Indians of the Calusa Indian Community, the Quetzal-Dihi Wintun Nation, and the Yocha-Dihi Wintun Nation. The Patwin people have remained committed to the stewardship of this land over many centuries. It has been cherished and protected, as elders have instructed the young through generations. We are honored and grateful to be here today on their traditional lands, and we encourage others to honor Native land and the legacy of Indigenous heritage beyond our campus grounds. If you are interested in educating yourself on whose land you reside, you can check out the great resource native-land.ca to learn more about Native territories in your local community. Lastly, the nonprofit First Nations Development Institute reminds us that Native American communities have sustainably managed their lands for thousands of years, cultivating, adapting, and transferring traditional ecological knowledge over many generations. We recognize the significance of Indigenous knowledge systems and how they inform our work today. Next, we would like to introduce ourselves as well as the Arboretum Ambassador Program that we are a part of. The UC Davis Arboretum and Public Garden Ambassador Program seeks to empower youth leaders to become effective advocates for the environment. Through public outreach, cultural and environmental programming, as well as conservation education, the program provides undergraduates with professional opportunities. Students are able to further their environmental education as they learn about issues facing California's environment, develop leadership skills, and apply classroom learning to real-world experiences.
So, hello everyone. Now we'd like to introduce ourselves and one of our favorite organizations and platforms that really keep us informed about environmental issues and about who's really doing the work to combat them. So, hello, my name is Paola Vargas. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm an environmental science and management major, And my favorite organization is Central American Collective because I'm half Central American and it helps to see an organization touch on topics relating to my culture and also talking about the environment and uplifting other organizations, mutual aids, and social topics.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cassie. My pronouns are she, her, and I am a second-year managerial economics major. My favorite climate justice organization to highlight is called the Intersectional Environmentalists, which is a media and resource hub that is founded by Leah Thomas. The movement advocates for the inclusive protection of all people as well as the planet, and I think it does a really great job of bringing intersectional injustice to the forefront of the movement.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Lester. I'm a second year communications and Japanese double major, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. So the activist group that I want to highlight is on Dirt Radio. And so it's presented by an Australian-based advocacy group called Friends of the Earth. And it basically hosts different activists that are on the front line and cutting edge of the environmental movement. So each show on Dirt Radio focuses in detail on a particular environmental or social justice issue that Friends of the Earth is campaigning on or affiliated with. And this includes nuclear energy, climate and energy justice, and coal mining. It also features a lot of cool music, so it's the perfect way to explore new tunes as well as learn more about the environment.
Yeah, so I'm the last ambassador. My name is Victoria Garay Rosales, and my pronouns are she, her, ella, and I'm a fifth year wildlife, fish, and conservation biology major, and I also have a minor in education. And my favorite environmental educator that kind of keeps me informed and who helps me learn and unlearn about environmental topics is Isaiah Hernandez, who created Queer Brown Vegan to kind of reflect his three identities as he navigates topics in relation to intersectional environmentalism. For instance, every week they are posting and educating others about different topics like what is a food swamp, what is biocultural conservation, what is light pollution, which may be terms that you may have or may have not known. And I just wanted to highlight him since they are striving to make environmental education accessible for everyone.
Yeah, and we'd also like to highlight our Arboretum and Public Garden staff. First, Rebecca, our wonderful staff mentor, and both Laura and Erin, our wonderful co-coordinators who will be monitoring the chat today. So like we said, feel free to put any questions you have along the way in the Q&A, or you can hold them until the end.
Yeah. All right. So moving on, what is the Arboretum and Public Garden? The Arboretum and Public Garden spans UC Davis's 5,300 plus acre campus. It is a campus and regional amenity comprising demonstration gardens and scientific collections, as well as the Puta Creek Riparian Reserve, which is a rare stream and grassland ecosystem managed for teaching, research, wildlife, and habitat protection. The Arboretum and Public Garden runs along the north channel of Puta Creek and is home to over 22,000 trees and plants with a multitude of different collections. The west end of the Arboretum is level and most easily accessible to wheelchairs and people with limited mobility. There are paved pathways from the east end of the Arboretum Davis Commons area to the Redwood Grove and Mandavi Center for Performing Arts. The wooden decks of the Wyatt Deck are being renovated and the project should be completed by winter of 2022. We also offer PDFs of our educational exhibits for visitors with limited mobility, which you can check out on our website. The Arboretum and Public Garden stewards our campus grounds as a resource for encouraging our students and community members to become environmental leaders, for the public to learn about climate change and the importance of regionally appropriate landscaping, and for visitors to informally explore the academic richness of UC Davis and so much more. By utilizing unique skills that combine large-scale sustainable landscape maintenance practices, comprehensive horticultural knowledge, and over 80 years of public engagement experience, the UC Davis Arboretum and Public Garden team is transforming its campus grounds into an outdoor museum and living laboratory in support of the university's extensive academic expertise.
Yeah, and as mentioned earlier, the Arboretum Ambassadors are an education-based internship. So we want to provide you all with 3 learning objectives, which we hope you all take with you after this workshop. So the first is learn, in which we all hope you gain the knowledge regarding the interconnectedness and interdependence between human and environmental systems. The second is self-efficacy, in which we hope you all feel more confident in your ability to use critical thinking to solve problems, to make a difference in your community, to address environmental issues and to influence your local environment positively. And lastly, action orientation, in which we hope you all gain the drive and the positive intentions in your heart to take action, to become a better ally as well as advocate for equitable and access to nature for all communities.
Cool. So you might be asking yourself, why is the Arboretum and Public Garden focusing on the connection between nature RX and environmental justice? Well, here's why. Spending time in nature has been shown time and time again to improve our mental and our physical health. And this can be done in many different ways. This includes going on a walk outside, taking up nature photography, or even meditating outdoors. However, it is important to recognize the disparities that exist in our environment. Not everyone has equal access to green space. A phenomenon known as the nature gap speaks to the unequal distribution of nature in America and lack of access to natural spaces, particularly amongst Black, Indigenous, people of color communities. The Arboretum and Public Garden serves as an inclusive space for all to come and experience the benefits of nature for one's well-being. By hosting this workshop, we are representing the ways in which the Arboretum and Public Garden holds up those values. We're making sure to highlight different organizations you can join, recognizing the inequality in access to green spaces, and offering solutions that you can partake in to close the nature gap. Together, we can all learn how to be better advocates for those of us who may not have the opportunity to safely experience the outdoors or may not even have a natural environment close by to explore. So let's talk a little bit more about the importance of connecting these topics.
So what exactly is nature RX? According to Cornell University, the term nature RX, quote, is built on a model first developed by a group of Washington, D.C. physicians and the National Park Service. Based on the premise that time spent in nature is therapeutic and contributes to personal well-being, this approach has now been introduced by physicians in a number of other US and Canadian cities, end quote. Multiple studies have concluded that spending even just a few hours each week in your nature can improve mood, cognitive ability, alertness, ability to concentrate, social connection, and overall sense of well-being. If you are interested in further exploring nature RX topics, check out our last workshop, which featured 4 amazing methods of nature-based self-care. These methods include meditation and mindfulness, outdoor hobbies, green exercise, and even simply taking a break outside. Scan the QR code on screen or click the link in chat to view the recording of our workshop and to learn more about the benefits of your natural environment. While we're on this topic of physical and mental wellness, we also want to take a moment to acknowledge Each Aggie Matters, a UC Davis mental health movement that has provided valuable resources and insight into our presentation today. Each Aggie Matters has made the important connection that your mental health is inseparable from your physical environment, a concept that greatly supports the main themes of our presentation today. One particular resource shared by Each Aggie Matters is an amazing self-care plan. The resource prompts self-reflection and it encourages tangible steps towards self-care in your personal life. Please scan the QR code to view the template or simply just to share it with others. Along with this great resource, Each Aggie Matters also educates and expands on the 6 domains of self-care. Whether you're focusing on cognitive, emotional, interpersonal, physical, or practical domains, it is important to prioritize self-care and to understand that there are many ways to address your needs within your environment.
So, as Cassie just mentioned, the correlation between spending time in nature and improved mental and physical health is very high. And there's so many different ways to practice nature RX. This can range from going camping with your friends and family, going on a jog around your neighborhood, meditating outside, reading outside, having a picnic at your local park. This list goes on and on. So we want to hear from you about how you practice nature RX. Scan this QR code and let us know what your favorite outdoor activity is. And this is going to bring us to a Mentimeter activity where you're able to type in what your favorite nature activity is. And I'll give you guys all a minute to go ahead and scan this QR code so that we can take a look at that. So while everybody is scanning this, Victoria, do you want to tell us what your favorite Nature RX activity is?
Yeah, so I think my favorite is like outdoor hobbies, like birding. I got into it because of my major, but I also love walking. I try to also go on daily walks to just listen to, and if I can't, I'll just go outside and like listen to nature, you know?
Yeah.
What about you?
Oh, well, okay, I'll go next. For me, I love hammocking. I also love going on walks. I talked about this in our last workshop, right? But like kind of combining two activities. So something I do every day is like try to call my parents, and something I want to do every day is go on a walk. So if I go on a walk and call my parents at the same time, I get both out of the way. Or I love doing both, so I do both. But that's probably my favorite Nature RX. Paula, how about you?
Yeah, so that sounds like pretty much like what I do too. I'm not like a huge exerciser, which you all know, but I like picnicking and stuff like that.
Cool. Cassie, how about you?
Well, with the weather being so nice with spring quarter, lately the way I practice Nature RX has been a lot of hammocking, but I do love green exercise as well, or simply going on walks.
Yeah. Walking, birding. Victoria, you got a birding friend. Going for walks. Cool. I also love going for walks.
I like that Melanie put sitting outside with my dog. I like that. I miss my dogs.
Roller skating, very impressive.
Oh, cool. Eating outside. Yep. Picnicking, painting outside. Cool. Running. Okay.
Yeah, all great ways to practice Nature RX.
Catching up on messages. Cool. Oh, thank you also. Napping. Thank you all so much for filling this out. Thinking, walking the dog, playing tennis. Cool. We have quite a variety of activities. So as you can see, everybody, there are so many ways to practice Nature RX. Frisbee. Cool. I see some people put every day. Awesome. Some people put once a week, 2 to 3 times a month. Awesome. So I'm saying mostly at least once a week. Cool. It's always important to try to be able to go outside. All right. Cool. Well, thank you all so much for participating here. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and continue with our presentation. Okay. So spending time in nature is associated with many mental and physical benefits. So this includes psychological restoration, improved mood, improved attention, reduced stress and anxiety, increased positive effect, and positive social interactions, and so much more. However, not everyone has equal access to green spaces, so it may be hard to experience the benefits of being outdoors. And this is the phenomenon of the nature gap that I was talking about earlier.
All right, so now that we know why nature is so beneficial, we can go ahead and define environmental justice itself and why it's so important. So environmental justice can be defined as a pursuit of equitable solutions to disparities that exist throughout our natural and built environment. It expands the environment, the definition of the environment, to the places we live, work, play, and learn. So this can include things like our homes, our neighborhoods, and our communities. Today, we'd like to present a quote said by Robert Bullard. He is known as a father of environmental justice, and he is a scholar, activist, and leader of the environmental justice movement. Through extensive research and advocacy, he has served as a catalyst against environmental racism for over 4 decades. The environmental justice movement grew out of the fight for civil and human rights. When you bring them all together, it's just one movement, the movement for justice. So environmental justice issues centered on lack of access to natural green spaces and disproportionate exposure to environmental degradation are acutely experienced by communities of color. Here we've compiled a sort of broad list, but not extensive, of environmental issues such as food deserts, pollution, urban sprawl, historically segregated spaces because of redlining, and forced removal from traditional lands. Examples we'd like to highlight today relating to Nature RX are food deserts and pollution. So since it expands the definition of our environment to areas we work and live, this could include the lack of access to food. Food is a well-known way to care for your physical well-being and is also a way you can practice Nature RX, like we've seen. You can use it for activities such as picnicking and mindfulness, which I love to do. So it's necessary to think about the inequities that exist and like why some can't experience the benefits of Nature RX through food. And the Arboretum Gateways interns will also be hosting a May 21st, 5:30 p.m. gratitude and gardening workshop on the benefits of gardening. So I encourage you all to check that out to see the very important benefits of healthy food as well. However, not everyone can increase their well-being through good nutrition. Food deserts are geographic areas where residents' access to affordable, healthy food options, especially things like fresh fruits and vegetables, is restricted due to the absence of convenient grocery stores. They occur frequently in low-income communities and communities of color, and studies have found that wealthy districts have 3 times as many supermarkets as poor ones, and white neighborhoods contain an average of 4 times as many supermarkets as predominantly Black ones do. So as a result, the food choices in food deserts are extremely limited, leading to an overabundance of fast food chains and processed food. And healthier food is also more expensive, especially in urban areas, and isn't very accessible to low-income folks, requiring them to travel farther as well. And so many simply don't have access to healthier food options, leading to higher rates of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease, and other diet-related conditions.
Moving on to our second topic, air pollution is yet another example that emphasizes the importance of access to nature, trees, and clean air. Urban forests and arboreta, such as the Arboretum and Public Garden, can help to remove carbon dioxide, which is a very dangerous greenhouse gas, from the atmosphere. However, many neighborhoods are devoid of trees as well as other plant life. This inequity is important to address because nature is not an amenity, but instead a necessity for everyone's health and well-being. A study based in 3 regions of the United States revealed that the interrelated socio-demographic variables of race, poverty status, and age tend to be associated with residential distance from 1 or more toxic release inventory facilities. This means that lower income minority communities are more frequently exposed to industrial pollution. Without the restorative benefits of nature to help offset pollution in a given region, these facilities can lead to direct health consequences. As a result, there is a disproportionate burden borne by communities of color when it comes to toxic air exposure and the associated cancer risks. As I mentioned before, nature is a necessity that should be universal. It's extremely important to address these vulnerable communities in order to close the nature gap for all.
Disparities like these examples are why we have to advocate for environmental justice.
Okay, so now we'd like you all to take a quick little survey on your personal environmental access. This is completely anonymous, so you won't need your name or your email. And if you don't want to answer any specific questions along the way, that's okay too. We just want to use this as an opportunity to address parts of the environment that some people or groups have more access to than others, and the different experiences we all have within the environment. Its purpose is for each of us to kind of reflect inward after learning about the disparities that exist and think about what privileges of environmental activities we each benefit from. So feel free to scan the QR code on the slide or click the link in the chat.
Yeah, thank you, Paula. And as you all take a moment to fill out this activity, we'll go ahead and play some nature audio for you and give you a few minutes before we take a quick look at a few of the results. Perfect. So thank you all for filling out this checklist, which addresses access to green spaces, health impacts, and advocacy spaces. Now we can take a look at a few of the questions we asked and see a few of the responses that we received. So looking at the access to green spaces segment, it looks like 100% of us do live in close proximity to a park, which is good. However, with that, only 66.7% feel welcome when visiting green spaces. Moving on to health impacts, it looks like about 27% of us live within 10 miles of an industrial site. And about 80% do live in close proximity to nutritious grocery stores or farmers market. That's great. Let's see, moving on to advocacy spaces, looks like 93% agree that environmental justice is an important topic for them to talk about with friends and family. That's great to hear as well. Yeah, and it looks like about 43% feel that when they spend time in natural spaces, there are people there that look like them. Yeah, so overall, really great responses. We appreciate you guys taking the time to fill that out. Since we all have different communities that we are able to call our home, this checklist is just one indication that we all have different experiences as well as relationships to nature. We hope that this activity encouraged brief reflection, and we would love to take the opportunity to expand on this topic more.
Yeah, and in a similar light, we want to give you all the perspective of what other communities members responded to similar questions. And these are from a different survey sent to student peers at the Arboretum and Public Garden, as well as academic success centers before today's workshop. And this survey was kind of meant to help inform the development of our program and to kind of bridge the nature gap. And we wanted to include them in this conversation since it's crucial to have a different perspective when discussing accessibility to nature, which might not be reflected in your own experience. Okay, so 2 questions we wanted to highlight are which topics were most relevant and important to their communities and have responded with the physical and mental consequences of environmental disparities, and the other was the inequity of access to green spaces and unwelcome environments. Hence, this kind of gives us a visualization that people are thinking about these topics and want solutions for them. And the other question we wanted to answer is related to how often people participate in Nature RX self-care, which Michelle gave us examples of earlier. And none responded with every day, which is sadly a reality for many BIPOC. For instance, an analysis by Conservation Science Partners, CSP, examined the distribution of America's remaining natural areas. And this information is from a Nature Gap article we will share later. And the data in this report found that the US has fewer forests, streams, wetlands, and other natural places near where Black, Latino, and Asian American people live. Therefore, this is another reason for why we need to make nature more accessible to everyone.
On that note, the Arboretum and Public Garden provides inclusive green space for everybody. So we really want to emphasize that everyone is welcome here to explore all of the Arboretum and Public Garden's different collections. Anybody is welcome to apply to our Learning by Leading internship program. And again, anybody can check out our various educational workshops. So the collections at the Arboretum and Public Garden are diverse and representative of plants from all over the world. In this way, the Arboretum and Public Garden is demonstrating inclusivity with our biodiversity, as well as making sure to highlight different cultures and the plants native to those lands. So we're going to start off with my favorite collection at the Arboretum, which is the East Asian collection. And the East Asian collection has open lawns and a lovely view of Lake Spafford. There are cherry blossoms and fragrant daphne that are standouts in winter and spring, while ginkgo and zelkova trees and ornamental grasses provide beautiful fall color. This collection is great for meeting up with your friends for a picnic, which is just one great way to practice Nature RX. So whether you're in between classes next year and you need a lunch break, or maybe you planned a Sunday brunch, the East Asian collection is the perfect place to go. Next up, we have the Southwest US and Mexican collection. So this includes trees, shrubs, and perennials that are adapted to heat and low rainfall. Many of the plants flower in the summer since they evolved with summer rains. The Montezuma bald cypress was grown from seed from the largest specimen in Mexico. This collection even has a PDF you can download to learn all about nature from this region. So check out our website to explore it. If you want, you could even bring this PDF and bring it to the Southwest US and Mexican collection, and you can identify all the different plants that we have there, and another great way to practice Nature RX. Moving on, we have our Native American Contemplative Garden. So this garden honors the Powin heritage on our land. This site is one of the several designed as a part of a campus-wide project to honor Native Americans, and it was created in 2011. This spot is perfect for practicing meditation and Nature RX. Next up, we have the Hummingbird and Pollinator Gateway Gardens. So this garden is designed to attract and be a suitable habitat for pollinators like bees, birds, and butterflies. The garden is part of our environmental gateway and is also an integral part of the campus-wide commitment to being pollinator friendly, which serves as a great place to educate yourself about nature. So if you wanted to come here with some friends or even by yourself and do some nature photography of all the different plants or birds that come here, this would be the perfect place to do that. We want to make sure to highlight these collections in particular because although there are a multitude of collections in the Arboretum and Public Garden, these ones are representative of how at its core our garden is an inclusive space. We also want to make sure to highlight we also want to invite everyone to explore our website. If you scan this QR code, it will take you to it and you can learn more about our interpretive exhibits and collections. This is also the place you'll want to check out if you're interested in seeing our workshops and our internship opportunities. So again, if you want to scan this QR code, it will take you to our website. So as I just mentioned, we also host various workshops that anyone can sign up for. This includes the one that you are attending right now. As Paola mentioned earlier, our Gateways internship program is hosting a gratitude and gardening workshop on May 21st at 5:30 p.m. PST. So if you want, you can scan this QR code to register. You can also, again, check out our website to learn more about the different workshops that we have planned for you all. And we also put the link in the chat too if you want to register for that.
Yeah, and we also wanted to mention how you can get involved in the Learning by Leading internship program focusing on environmental stewardship and environmental education and outreach. These programs are great opportunities to educate yourself more about the environment. And within these two strands are 12 internships that range from sustainable horticulture to museum education. Please check out the UC Davis Arboretum and Public Garden website to learn more. And we also think it's important to uplift organizations led by people of color and those who are working to address these disparities in their own communities. Advocacy spaces should also be inclusive and representative of the underserved communities being affected. To encourage everyone to get involved, we will be spotlighting 4 academic student success centers on campus that helped us with today's workshop and 4 off-campus community organizations in order to help close the nature gap. With these centers, we hope more students will feel welcomed at UC Davis and experience the wonderful Nature RX activities available through the Arboretum and Public Gardens natural spaces. So first, the Center for African Diaspora Student Success offers a great safe space for students, cultural resources, and materials such as the Black Pages, a comprehensive guide to the African and African American undergraduate experience at UC Davis. They also have mentoring opportunities and events such as the Black Leadership Retreat. Pertaining to mental health, the Center for Chicanx and Latinx Academic Student Success has several great support groups, including In Lakesh, a women's support group whose goal is to decolonize the therapeutic encounter. They also have Tla Celel, a men's support group, and Mental Menudo, an open forum for all students. So next we have the AB 540 and Undocumented Student Center that partners with the Community Advising Network known as CAN to provide students with consultation and personal counseling to help with the unique mental health obstacles of undocumented students. To help with food insecurity, they also have super helpful food vouchers available for up to $500 per academic period in electronic gift cards to Safeway and its peer grocery stores. For basic needs, they also have an emergency grant, also up to $500 per academic period. And they have an upcoming event on May 10th from 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. called Advocate Program for Peers. So I encourage you all to check that out as well. And lastly, we have the Native American Academic Student Success Center that offers a variety of monthly and weekly programs designed to build a sense of community, promote mental and social wellness, and allow students to build meaningful connections with one another. They have programs like coffee talks, student-led community check-ins, tribal presentations, and Wellness Wednesdays. And so finally, here's a map courtesy of the Asian Pacific Islander Retention Initiative, which features a lot of campus success centers. So each of these centers provides amazing resources for students and can help point you to the support available to you. We thank these organizations today for bridging the nature gap by helping students feel more at home at UC Davis, where they can experience its mental and physical nature RX opportunities for themselves.
Yeah, so we kind of just gave you all a bit of an overview of the campus resources as well as Arboretum spaces that you can all access. And now we just want to highlight some organizations that are striving to provide BIPOC with the opportunities to access nature. And of course, this will give you all a chance to take action, which is one of the learning objectives, in case you forgot. So the first organization I want to highlight is Outdoor Afro. And Outdoor Afro is a national organization with a local chapter in the Bay Area, specifically Oakland. And Outdoor Afro is a nonprofit who work to encourage and welcome African Americans in outdoor spaces. And they do this through activities such as hiking, camping, birding, fishing, gardening, skiing, pretty much any nature-based activity you can think of. And they're changing the face of conservation as they connect thousands of people to the outdoors. And this is kind of their form of reclaiming these identities and these spaces of nature. And another organization that we want to highlight is Girl Trek. And Girl Trek is one of the largest public health nonprofit for African American women. And this organization empowers Black women to kind of like mobilize themselves as well as their communities to transform their lives so they may be healthier. And they do this by taking part in green exercise, which is a form of nature RX. And they do this by organizing walking teams. And during these spaces, they also have monthly advocacy efforts. And pretty much Girl Trek is leading a civil rights inspired health movement. And yeah, so Girl Trek is also a national organization. So regardless of where you live, there should be a chapter near you. And lucky for us, there is a Sacramento and Oakland chapter. Yeah, so another organization is Mothers Out Front, and Mothers Out Front is a national nonprofit, and they are leading a movement that places mothers at the center of change in all dimensions of justice, from climate, racial, and social justice change. And something that is very powerful and unique about this movement is that it arose because mothers want to protect the future of their children. So if you want to be involved, there is a Woodland and Sacramento chapter. Also, you don't have to be a mother or a woman to be a part of this. It's just like women are kind of like leading this organization. And lastly, Latino Outdoors. And Latino Outdoors is a Latinx-led organization, and they're striving to be a resource to include the Latinx community in the nature movement. And they do this by providing opportunities in leadership, mentorship, and just accessibility to nature, and helping them through things such as like purchasing the gear needed for outdoor activities. And I really like this quote that they had in their website, which is, Latino Outdoors is a space for the community to be present, to share our voices and showcase how conservation roots have been ingrained in la cultura latina for generations. Yeah, so anyways, we felt the need to highlight these organizations because there are stereotypes of who is associated with nature, and people don't automatically think of Black and Brown people, specifically Black and Brown women. And we felt that these organizations are putting them at the core of their work. And you might be thinking, wow, these organizations are so amazing. How can I get involved? Like, do not worry. The links to the websites will be attached in a resource list that I will be discussing in a few moments. So, okay, thank you all for listening to me talk about these organizations. Now we want to reiterate our learning objectives for today, since we are once again an education-based internship, which are to learn, self-efficacy, and action orientation. So before we end our workshop, we wanted to give you all a flyer of the different on and off campus resources you can all use and take away beyond this workshop. We wanted to have a visual that has all the organizations we have mentioned earlier, so you can all further your knowledge on the factors affecting BIPOC in nature spaces. So yeah, you can just scan the code or get the link through the chat, and this will send you to a Canva page where you can see all the different resources. You can just click on it and you'll get the different websites. And within the flyer, we also provided a link to an allyship resource guide labeled as the Anti-Racism in the Outdoors Resource Master List. And it was created by Don Rocco from Cornell University, who is an associate professor in the School of Integrative Plant Science, as well as Laura Brown from the University of Connecticut, who is a community economic development educator. And both of them compiled a list of resources ranging from podcasts, articles, books, organizations, and pretty much anything you can think of that will help you be a better ally. And I know that's where I learned about different topics, educators, books, and the organizations we highlighted today. So yeah, if you click that link, the organizations should be there. And we hope you all go through each of the resources within the flyer, because these organizations need our support, whether that is through your time, donations, or just spreading the word that there are people working towards a future where all communities have access to nature. So we hope this document serves as a tool for you all to take action by informing yourselves and those around you, since this is the initial step to transforming our future, you know? So yeah, thank you.
So with all of the information that we have provided throughout this presentation, here's a brief citation of the many resources that helped us put together this presentation for all of you. And we also want to make sure to thank the people who helped make this presentation possible. Special thanks to our host, the Manetti Shrem Museum, as well as UC Davis faculty, staff, and academic success centers for their guidance and expertise. So as we conclude our presentation, we want to ask you to take a moment to fill out this survey that will help inform our future Nature RX programming. We greatly appreciate you all taking the time to join us today, and we hope you enjoyed learning about Nature RX and the importance of equity in our environment. We'll go ahead and move on to a Q&A session. That'll be about 10 minutes or so, and as Michelle was saying, please feel free to ask any questions.
And again, here's the resource list. This is a really, really great resource. Again, like we were talking about, this master list is so extensive of so many different things you can explore. Personally, for me, as you might have been able to tell from Dirt Radio being my organization, I love to like listen as I learn. So I was like blown away by like all the different podcasts they had on there.
Yeah.
But there's so many different forms. So whatever your like favorite way of learning is, they have such an extensive list of everything.
Yeah. So there's a question in the Q&A, which is, what got each of you interested in this topic? I don't know who wants to answer first.
You can go first, Victoria, if you want.
I think it's just like, I don't know. I think we've all been passionate about like environmental justice since like fall quarter, and that we felt like it was just right to do it like spring. I mean, just because we had the opportunity, you know. I know we've been like trying to do it since like fall, but we felt we kind of had to build up to it, you know, like with Nature RX.
Yeah, I can go ahead and build off of that too. First of all, that's a really great question, Carmia. But personally, I got more interested in environmental justice during the COVID pandemic, specifically because quarantine was such a particular situation of everyone being, you know, kind of stuck inside quarantining. And I spent a lot of my time exploring the local parks in my area and going on new hikes that I had never known about, and trying to adventure out more with my friends. But it's an unfortunate reality that some people aren't lucky enough to have those in their own communities. And for that reason, I think it's really important that there's more discussion about these topics.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Cassie makes a really good point about the pandemic, like with, it pointing out like a lot of things and like bringing a lot to our attention. And like same, my major is environmental science and management, so I feel like through that I learned a lot about like the environment and like certain stuff that wasn't really being discussed as much as I wanted to. So I kind of like to like do my own research on that and kind of get into like environmental justice a little more, apart from like my classes, because they have like really good like info through them, but I was like, like what is up with this? So I was like, I wanted to do more on it. And so yeah, so I think this workshop was really cool to do.
Yeah, for me, I feel like I've learned a lot about it through the classes that I've been able to take at UC Davis. So my freshman year, I took a class called Black Women in Food, and it was such an insightful class. It was really interesting, but we talked about like that was like where I learned about food deserts, and it was like very interesting to just like really see the disparity and like to talk about it, and like how it was like to kind of compare it to, because the class was like based on media, and so it was like talking about the different organizations that are working to fight against food deserts, but like how the advocacy spaces aren't necessarily inclusive. And so that was really interesting for me to learn about. And then in my sophomore year this year, Cassie and I both took a landscape and design class, and they talked a lot about redlining and just like all these different environmental topics that I had never really been exposed to before. So being a part of this internship too, it gave me a really great space to like learn about it and explore the topics more. So yeah, that's how I kind of learned about it.
Yeah, and like Victoria said in the chat, I saw the difference in my access to nature in my hometown versus Davis. I definitely feel that too. Like I definitely see the difference that the Arboretum offers, compared to where I live in Los Angeles. So like that is such a big difference. I love Davis's like access to green spaces. It really like makes a difference that I didn't think that I would like experience here. So that's very cool.
For sure.
We have a question from Maya. Do you think NatureRx is a good entry point to talk about communities that don't feel comfortable bringing up mental health?
Yeah, for sure. I can kind of answer this first. I feel like NatureRx is a really like, I don't want to say unique necessarily, but like it's a way to practice self-care that is maybe not talked about that much, because I feel like typically self-care is like put on a face mask, do a bath, watch a movie, but being able to like go out in nature and all the benefits that nature gives you really should be talked about more, because it's like science clearly shows the connection between like how being in nature can improve your like psychological well-being. But yeah, I definitely think that that would be like a good way for community building to be created, because even all these organizations that we've been highlighting, like Girl Trek and Outdoor Afro, like these are groups and communities that are like trying to incorporate that into their lifestyle. And so it's definitely like a great way to talk about mental health and also incorporate self-care in your community.
Yeah, that's a great question too. I think that really also reinforces the point that we discovered when we were collaborating with Each Aggie Matters, where they said that your mental health is inseparable from your physical environment. And I think that's really important to address, because a lot of the times people don't directly see the correlation between nature RX, self-care, and mental health. And as Michelle was saying, once you are able to kind of make that connection and see that bridge that overlaps both topics, I think it really helps to facilitate a conversation more about mental health and that relationship with nature.
Yeah, you guys did a good job of answering it.
Thanks, Victoria.
Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah. Yeah, I also feel like I come from a community where mental health isn't really talked about, and like, what like who mentioned that? Maya, and what I was gonna say, like I think like nature or like nature RX in general kind of gives you, like Michelle and Cassie mentioned, like you can physically and and visually sometimes see how nature helps you, you know, and like nature is everywhere. So I think it's a good way to start conversations of like how like nature can kind of heal people. And yeah, I know I still like struggle like with the mental health aspect with my family, like just like talking about topics, but I think like nature RX can be used as a tool, you know, like kind of like how we use food to communicate, like nature can also be used.
If you all have any more questions, however long we want. Okay. If you all have any more questions, we will stay on for a few more minutes. And if not, you are all totally free to leave. But we really appreciate you all coming here on your Friday night and hearing our workshop. But yeah, again, thank you all so much. Again, if you do have any questions, feel free to stay. But if not, I hope you all have a good night.
Yeah, and as a last reminder, please feel free to save a copy of this resource list or to share it with others. We really appreciate you all attending today and hope that you learned something new or enjoyed hearing from us today.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you everyone.